Preaching for the choir. Can I get a mic a little higher? What's up, audiophiles? It's me, your boy Joe, back again with another video. And before we kick things off, I would like to tell you Happy Raksha Bandhan. It's a very eventful time in here in my place, and I got myself a Rakhi from my sisters, and I got a wonderful gift as well from them. So thanks a lot to them, and Happy Raksha Bandhan to all of you guys as well. So today we're going to be looking at VE, or Venture Electronics as they call it. And Venture Electronics is a very good brand which is known for a DAC known as the Megatron DAC. And from them we are now going to be looking at a stack, not one, not two, but three different components all put together to create this. So we're going to be looking at the Prime Pure DAC, the Runabout Pure Amp, and the Warp Core Slim all put together to form this VE stack. In terms of pricing, the Prime Pure DAC is $99 as of now on their website, and the Runabout Pure Amp along with the Warp Core Slim is $148 in their website. A quick disclaimer is that this particular stack has been given to me as a review unit from the VE brand and from Audio Geek Group, and as always, all thoughts and opinions are my own. Without any further ado, let's begin. Alright, so to begin things off, I would like to look at the design elements of it. As you can see, it's built like a tank. It has this kind of metal shell, aluminum or metallic shell, not sure about that, with some black elements in the front and the back. It has that industrial theme to it. If you notice that it has this pixelated text in the front and it has that very clean aesthetic style to it. So I do believe this could match with many desktop setups if you do want them. As for this particular stack, you do notice that I have double-sided adhesive. That's why this thing is put together, and it gives a very clean look as well. So to start from the top, we have our Prime Pure DAC in here, and then from that we have the Runabout Pure Amp in the middle, and in the bottom we have the Warp Core Slim. So to begin with the I/O elements, we have the charge and data and SPDIF from the DAC in the back side. I would show you images in the side so you could see what I'm looking at in here. And in the front we have the mic, so this DAC can be used in a mic source, so that's something which is pretty good. And we have the 4.4 and the 3.5. So one thing I do want to nitpick about the DAC is that as per design, the outputs of the DAC is opposite to the charge and the data. So suppose you have your source which is plugged into this, that source will then be opposite to the output in here. So the interconnect cable, as you can see, is dangling from the front of the DAC all the way around to the back to connect it to the amp, and that creates this kind of loop that you'll have to see. It's not the most aesthetic of loops and it's not the most best of design choices, but it is what it is. So from the DAC, what we have to do is we have to take a power bank and we have to connect that to the charge of the DAC, like so, and then we have to connect the source that is from this data and connect it to something like our MP3 players, our DAPs, our PC, phone, whatever you want to do. That creates this kind of 4-stack layer now, that we have our power bank to power the DAC, and we have our amp, and we have the power source of the amp, which will only power the amp and not the DAC itself. So you have this kind of a clunky setup, I would say, which is by terms portable, but it's a portable by stretch. If I want to talk about the characteristics of the DAC, the maximum output that the DAC can deliver is 24-bit and 96 kHz. You might notice that that's actually a bit of a difference from the usual DACs, which will run at around 24 or else even 32-bit, all the way up to 384 kHz. But I would like to say that the output and the sound quality is not reduced by much, and in fact, if not by much, by not anything at all. The output is still pretty good even though it is at this rate. So now that we have the DAC connected and that is having the power bank to the DAC, you would see that we have here a green indicator, and after that this particular DAC's output is wired around to the amp. Now let's talk about the amp. The Runabout Pure Amp is having everything in the backside, so that's pretty nice and clean. We have the on-off switch, we have the power source, I will show pictures in here. Along with that on-off switch and power source, we also have the input, that is the DAC's input is fed to the back, and from the front we have a volume knob which is in a nice gold paint, and we have the single-ended as well as the 4.4 connection. As far as the design goes about the amp and the Warp Core Slim, it's very good. They are all sized similarly. It gives a very clean look because they are of course made for each other. So once you do turn it on, you would see the green light indicator from here, which means that the amp is now powered by the warp core and you could now use your connections as such. One thing I do want to point out is that the volume knob is not the smoothest of knobs. It has that little bit of a scratchy feel once you're going from the start. It doesn't affect the audio. I don't feel any scratch in the audio channels at all. I'm just talking about the haptics, so when you are turning this, it's something to note. Then finally, you would notice that we have the power interconnect, which is a very nice cute cable that goes from the warp core to the amp. And as for the warp core, it is a power input and output, which means you would either charge or you would use a warp core connected to the amp for usage, which is as per the safety instructions. You're not supposed to use the warp core while it's charging, so I believe this update is to reflect the same, and I do like that a lot. So that's pretty much it as terms of design aspects. Let's move on to the sound impressions. So while talking about the sound, it is good to talk about all the kinds of devices that I was able to connect to it. I did try this on my iPhone and tried to pair it with the DAC amp stack. I was not able to get it connected to my iPhone 13 at least. Maybe I would need some different apps for that. I have tried it and it didn't work much for me. I've also tried it on my Hibi R6 and it was not able to detect it. Maybe I should use some other kind of apps for that. But on the bright side, I was able to connect it to my Mac and it works out of the box like a charm, and no drivers, nothing else extra, but it will only work along with the extra power source. It would not work when I have it directly connected. As for their website, they said that if you have any powerful connections, you can just use it without using the charge. But as for me, at least for the Mac, when I connected it, it only works once I have an external power source connected to the DAC. So of all of the thoughts and impressions that I'm going to be talking about, it is based on my MacBook Pro running the DAC amp stack with all of the gears that I'm going to talk about. So when it comes to the sound quality of the DAC amp stack, I would first say that the bass is amazing. It has a really good authority to it and it gives a punchy feel when you connect it to any IEM whatsoever. Whatever IEM you do connect it to, it gives that IEM the next level bass response in terms of punchiness and in terms of that sub bass rumble. So with all that said, let's get into the first gear that I used, and this is also a very good segue to one of the other gear that I got from VE that I want to talk about. That is the DIC Vita Cable. This DIC Vita cable is attached to my H60 that you can see in here. This cable is having a power cord shielding that you can see all the way up to the Y split. And the Y split is a nice metal Y split with the branding on it. And from that Y split, we have copper with kind of a transparent shielding that has a chin slider, which is made out of rubber for some reason. You could have a better selection as for a chin slider rather than a simple rubber tube, but nevertheless we have that, and it is a working chin slider which keeps its position as well. And from that we have the pins, and this is a 2-pin connection which is now connected to my H60. The cable feels very good quality. It doesn't have any memory whatsoever when I'm using it, and when I have it plugged in, it was very comfortable and it's very pliable as well. One thing I would say is that the shielding, which is next to the 2-pin, is a tad longer, so probably if you use this for larger earphones, they might stick out even more than what it is already sticking out. If you notice from here, it is sticking out and then looping back. I don't face that any issues from my earphones, but I would think that for bigger IEMs, then that would be sticking out even more like a sore thumb, and that could cause some design issues. But just a point to note for that. So when it comes to the H60 connected with the DAC amp stamp, I would say that it is having a really good sound output. It had a very good bass response. It has a very good bass punchiness. And since the H60 is a very sensitive IEM, I did try to check it with the highest volume that I could use. The volume setting didn't even cross 9 o'clock in here. It is that much volume that is able to be given from the amp stack, which is a nice thing. It has plenty of power in it and no noise floor. I heard zero noise or hiss from the amp stack when I've connected it to the H60, which is at least the most sensitive that I'm having so far. I would say that the amp stack is giving a very good bass response with an extra authority and punch, and keeping the mids and treble as transparent as possible. By transparent, I would mean that the mids and trebles inherit whatever is the characteristic of the IEM that you're using, rather than giving anything from the DAC itself. So the H60 being an IEM which has pretty good sense of details as well as a nice bass response, it has very crystal clear details which has not been muddled or been changed in any way with the DAC amp stab, but the bass is being more rumbly, it has more punchiness to it, which I really like. Overall, I would say that the H60 pairs really well with the DAC amp stamp, and if anyone is having the H60, I would suggest you could try using the VE stack to see how it goes. Okay, so the next one we're going to look is one of my all-time favorites, that is the Deuce. And as far as the Deuce is concerned, I would say this is the best pairing I have ever seen with the Deuce. The reason is the Deuce is already a very nice bassy set, and being the most bassy IM there is, once you connect it to the VE stack, it gives that sub bass to the next level. The sub bass already rumbles your mind when you're listening to the Deuce. This case, it makes your entire head wobble with that kind of sub bass rumble. I would be really sure that bass heads will enjoy the way that the Deuce is sounding when it's connected to the VE stack. It's something incredible. And as for the details, whatever I was talking about, the Deuce's details is okay to a certain extent, and that is also not being messed up or tampered with in any way with the VE stack. So the Deuce's details is good, as well as an extra nice punchy bass with a great sub bass rumble that rumbles your entire mind. It was the perfect pairing that I have ever seen for the Deuce plus this particular VE stack. All in all, I would highly recommend anyone who's having the Deuce to check it out with the VE stack. And last but not least, I also tried out the VE stack with my IO Valère. And in terms of the IO Valère, I would say that the story is a little different. Yes, the bass was improved to a certain extent, I would believe, and it was sounding nice and punctual, but in this case, there was a bit of a bleed from the bass to the mids, and I didn't feel the mids are that clean when it comes to the IO Valère, and the details of the IO Valère seem to have gone down. Could this be because the IO Valère is an ESD based one, or is there some sort of different kind of pairing scheme on it? I'm not sure, but at least for me, the IO Valère was not pairing well with the VE stack as compared to something like my K11 feel. So, what are my overall impressions for the VE stack? Well, for starters, the VE stack is built like a tank. You can take someone out if you chuck this on them hard enough, and it has a very good design aesthetic to it, that kind of metallic finish, something that would match anyone's gear and set if they choose to. And it is a little bit on the bulky side though, because as I said, having 4 components all stacked up is trying to test the portability to some extent. If you look away from all of that, in terms of sound aspect, it is improving the bass really well, and it's keeping the mids and trebles in a transparent fashion, so that is something I really do appreciate about it. If I have to give this a rating based on the sound quality alone, I would say that the sound quality is amazing. It is not requiring any driver, at least for the PC, although maybe you will have to check for other connections when it comes to your phone or for your DAPs. When it comes to that, I would say that the sound quality is a 4.5 out of 5 stars. When we are looking at the design elements like this flappy interconnect cable and some of the cases like the volume knob or some of the design flaws that you see in here, then I would say that on that aspect I would give it a 4 out of 5. It's not a total deal breaker, but it's just something that it would be a nice quality of life. If we move the output to the back, you'll have very clean connections, and if you have a smoother volume knob for an all-time benefit. That all being said, thank you so much for listening to my review. If you do have some thoughts and discussions, please let me know in the comment below. And as always, if you do like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, give me a thumbs down. I don't know. Until then, I would see you in the next video. Peace.